retired American Baptist minister, and I will be moderating this evening. It's an honor to be asked to moderate this event, especially by such a distinguished organization, the League of Women Voters. I like to think that I'm following in a bit of a tradition here as pastoral moderators. I remember in the distant past, not too distant, a good friend of mine, Bob Bell, was a pastor at the First Presbyterian Church in Corning, and he was a moderator on occasion of these events. Upon his retirement, Bob and Jean left for the Philadelphia area. That's where Bob and I differ. When I retired from the church, Annie and I decided to stay right here in Corning. We love the town. So moving on, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League operates on the local, state, and national levels. There are leagues in every state: Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. In New York State, there are 60 local leagues. This forum is organized by the League of Women Voters of Steuben County. And men, please take note, this is not just a women's organization. So we'd like to have you involved. For more information, you can pick up membership brochures and other printed material at the back, or there's a website, League of Women Voters, LWVNY, that you can get a hold of. And Frank Lando, no. Hilda Lando and Frank Anastasio have plenty of information back there for you. You'll know when you see him, that's all right. I'd like to thank each of you for coming out, and especially I'd like to thank these candidates who wish to serve on the City Council. I'm going to introduce them by name. If they would just, you don't have to stand up, just raise your hand. And what we'll do is, as each person speaks, we would like to ask them to stand. When it's time for them to speak. Right now, just raise your hand and then pass the microphone down as it goes. So, hang on to the microphone there right now. I'll do the introduction, okay?
I don't want to bang off anything.
All right, our first candidate, I'll just say them by the ward and their political party. Ward 1, Republican, Shawn Copp. Okay. Ward 1, Democrat, Diane Telehany. Ward 2, Republican, Andrew Boomer Cleary. Ward 2, Democrat, Kate Paterson. Ward 3, Republican, Chris Karam. And I apologize if you look.
I want a nickname like Boomer, though.
Oh, okay, all right. You'll have to get that to me earlier. Chris Karam, I apologize for the misspelling on his name tag up there. It's K-A-R-A-M. Ward 3, Democrat, James Scouten. Ward 5, Republican, Rose Blackwell. Ward 5, Republican, Frank Muccini. Ward 5, Democrat, Neal Pritchard. Ward 7, Republican, James Nelson. And Ward 7, Mark Resue. So for our, as I said, for our questions, we will have a minute and a half to speak. This just a few expectations of everyone who's out there and people who are up front. This is a forum. It's an opportunity to hear from the candidates. This is not a debate, and as such, there will be no direct debate between the candidates and no periods for rebuttal. Candidates are asked to answer the questions that have been provided, and these questions were provided to the candidates ahead of time. And the remaining time will be submitted, questions will be submitted in writing by the audience tonight. And once again, if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get you a piece of paper so we can take a look at it. Write your question on the cards. Each question will be posed to every candidate before the designated candidate speaks. Candidate sequence and timing to answer each question has been laid out and provided to the candidates beforehand. There's also an opening time for an opening statement and a closing statement. The timekeeper will give the speaking person a 15-second warning when their time is up, and a red card, warning at 15 seconds left, and then a red card when the time is finished. Candidates are asked to be respectful of one another, of the views and opinions of fellow candidates, and to comply with the allotted times to answer questions. Disruptive, disrespectful audience behavior will not be tolerated, and those audience members will be asked to leave immediately. So, are we ready? All right. Our first question tonight is a matter of time for opening statement. So, Shawn, if you would like to go first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shawn Copp. I live in the First Ward, and I'm a Republican. I have served the people of the city of Corning for the last 18 years, well, for 18 years, not the last 18 years, because I retired in June of 2016 from the police department. Over that time frame at the city of Corning, I served on the negotiating team as the lead traffic officer in the city of Corning. So I wrote a lot of tickets. I was the bad guy that you would see at the entrance to the city, out either end, waiting for somebody to speed past me. My experience in the city manager form of government over the time frame has been somewhat extensive, being a negotiator on the on the negotiating committee for the city police department. And during that time frame, I had to do that as well as be a treasurer for at least 9 of those 18 years. And I got to meet a lot of the people over the 18 years here in the city, not just in the First Ward. I've also had experience in local boards as well. I was an officer in charge in the Addison Police Department from 96 to 98, before I came to the Corning Police Department in 98. And during that time frame, I had a lot of interaction with the village board there and the board meetings. I also served on planning board Riverside at the tail end of the major road construction when they moved 86, and helped out plan out things like the grade aid, other local businesses there that were built after the end of the time frame. I've lived in the First Ward for the last 7 years and will serve the citizens of the First Ward. I believe in honesty and integrity, working as a team with the city council and the city staff. I'm always willing to listen to the citizens. Thank you.
Diane, Telehany.
Hi, my name is Diane Telehany, and I also live in the First Ward. My experience throughout my career has always been working with teams, and I think that is a great experience to have, a great qualification to have. Working on a team within the city council, I think, is a very important issue that we have here in the city. I'd like to think that we're all working towards the same goals within the city, and that I'd like to make those goals as achievable as possible, being your councilman. Another qualification is my passion to work hard for the greater good of the city. And being a retiree, I have time to be on different committees within the council, and I also have time to listen to all of the concerns of the people within my ward. So I'm willing to help and listen to what people have to say. And that's the reason why I'm running, to do my best not only for the ward, but for the city, and I'd like a chance to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Omar?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. A little background, my name is Andrew Cleary, but as most people know me as Boomer. I own Little Boomer's Burrito Bar on Market Street. It's 4 years now, small business owner. I grew up in Corning. I've lived in Corning all my life, and I plan to stay here in Corning. So that's the reason I'm up here. Some qualifications is, like I said, owning a small business on Market Street. Not only am I dealing with employees, also the public, day in and day out, fielding questions, comments, concerns, working as a team, and the biggest thing is being a problem solver. That's my strong suit, is solving problems from big to small, and solving them quickly in a timely and the best way possible. Why am I running? Just to kind of get a young, fresh face on the city council, as well as giving a voice to some of these business owners in the downtown area and everything like that. That's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Hello, thank you for coming out. I've always believed that if you care about something, you work to support it and try to make it better. Since moving to Corning and into the Second Ward in 1998 with my husband Patrick and our two-year-old daughters, that is what I've tried to do. I volunteered in our schools and on PTAs. I volunteered at the Cinderella softball fields and at the Wine Glass Marathon. And I volunteered in our library and with the Friends of the Library, and now I'm on its board. And I volunteered building homes for Habitat for Humanity. And I see my work now with the Steuben County Office for the Aging as another way to try to make my community a better place to live. Now I'm working helping seniors to age successfully in their own homes. And I'm grateful to the city of Corning for being such a wonderful place to live and raise our family. And I want to work to keep it strong well into the future. And running for city council is another way that I feel I can support something I care about, in this case, our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Good evening. I was asked to talk a little bit about my qualifications regarding the position on city council. Back in 1985, I graduated from Corning Community College with a degree in business administration. In '87, I graduated from St. John Fisher with a degree in management. After I graduated from Fisher, I went to Fort Bragg with the 82nd Airborne and completed my military training and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. After that, I went home on leave and awaited for my orders. And my orders came, and they assigned me to the engineer branch. So, as I'm driving to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, I'm talking to myself, as I quite frequently do, saying, why the heck is the Army sending me to engineer school when I'm a business guy? Well, in hindsight, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I had a great career in the Army, 22 years, because of that background. I'm enjoying my career now as vice president of a local civil and environmental engineering firm. And lastly, that combination of experience and education helps me with my service on city council, especially tackling the tasks that are before us currently. Thank you.
Thank you.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. I am if anybody knows the question coming up, I am a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party. And my qualifications, everybody in the 3rd Ward probably has at least one copy of my flyer, and my qualifications are set forth in the flyer. Why am I running? I'm running because I care about preserving the historic resources of Corning. I am running because I will bring new ideas to the city council, such as a sidewalk matching fund improvement program. And both Frank and I have fallen going around work. Fortunately, I didn't break anything, but we've fallen going around door to door. I also would like to see the parking restrictions revisited, because it's very difficult for some of our residents who have to park on street to be able to park and not get tickets. I'm not trying to save camp money, but anyway, I think the regulations need to be looked at. I'm running because I believe that the local political politics is important to Corning voters, and it's also important to our American two-party political system. I'm running because I believe in bipartisan political cooperation, such as, now I wasn't in office then, but Frank Muccini and I worked together on a lot of problems, including getting people to pay attention to the fact that there was hazardous waste over in Houghton Plot. And both Frank and I are always willing to meet, talk, cooperate with whoever to solve problems. So, thank you.
Jim, Rose?
I too want to thank the League of Women Voters for this invitation, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and to talk about the issues. After serving as city clerk for 33 years, I recently retired. I appreciate all of the kind words from people in the community during my past few months. It was truly a pleasure going to work every day to serve the public. Upon retiring, many people encouraged me to run for the city council to bring a more professional atmosphere to the city council meetings. After attending these meetings for over 3 decades, I believe the relationships that I have built and my knowledge of our form of government will help me to make a difference. I want to give back to the city that has given so much to me. As the city clerk, customer service was always my #1 priority. I will bring that same desire to help the people to the city council if I am successful in the general election.
Thank
Sorry, it takes a little while for me to get up. I broke my arm. A little bit about myself, for those who don't know me. I've been a city councilman for 26 years. I came out here from Boston. I came out as a consultant to Corning Incorporated. I was doing the process engineering in their melting plants in the main plant, Irwin, Corral, etc. And then after being out here for over a year, they asked me to stay on. I'm a graduate of Northeastern University. I have a degree in finance and a degree in economics. And I have over 35 years of consulting experience. I've been involved with companies like Honeywell, ITT, and a number of others. I'm also locally, I'm the past president of the Corning Lions Club, and I've also gone from the president to the district governor, which includes 54 Lions clubs, going from here to Lake Ontario. And the following year after that, the members of the board elected me to take care of the entire state. So I'm very much involved in a lot of the fraternal organizations and a lot of the projects that they have. I was also past chairman of the Italian Sister Cities program in Corning. Now, I've been on the council for 26 years, and I have a world of experience and a world of information and things that I've done for the city, working with the city manager, working with the other councilmen. And she's holding me a sign up here. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Neal Pritchard, and I'm running for city council because I have an interest in serving the public. I've been engaged with members of my community and doing what I can to make a difference. The residents of a city should be able to participate in their local government. A city council must be open and transparent. As a member of the city council, I will do my best to make it happen. I'm also always have been and will be responsible for finances and maintaining a balanced and disciplined budget.
Well, thank you to the League of Women's Voters for inviting us here this evening, and thank you all for coming out. I've been on city council for the last 20 years. I'm a lifelong resident here of the city of Corning, living in the ward and on the north side. And I've served on city council as a councilor, as deputy mayor, as chair of the code committee, which I currently am. And I've worked with the city manager on the other half of the team that Shawn talked about. I was on the manager's side of the negotiating table to negotiate city contracts, and that's an experience within itself. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I would feel lost if I could not be a part of the activities and things that happen within the city. I feel that the council is making all kinds of progress here lately with the Northside Business Development that just recently we had a ceremony for. the hotel, the Northside Hotel, and the paving of the streets, and so many of the things that we're doing here. I want to continue helping to make that progress continue.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Mark Resue, and I'm running for the 7th Ward Councilman. I'm registered as a Republican, but running as an independent. I didn't want to attach myself to any one given party. I believe that in this form of office, you need to look at the individual themselves and who would best help the community. I recently attended the NICOM workshop, which is the New York Conference of Mayors, to help me better understand the roles and ethics involved in taking this position. I've lived in the Corning area my entire life also, and I care about the city's future. I have a young family, and I believe it takes a strong community and everything within that community and whatever the community has to offer to raise a young family. So this is my main reason for running for the office. Thank you.
All right, the first of our questions, and once a reminder for those who came in late, if you have a question, like to put it on a piece of paper, we'll collect it. Some questions up here. Frank, we can get those?
Yes.
Our first question for all the candidates is, what do you think is the most critical issue facing the city, and how would you address this if elected?
So I think the most critical issue facing the city continue to be the failing infrastructure and maintaining a balanced budget to meet the needs of the citizens of Corning. The unfunded mandates the state continues to impose on the city, as well as the tax cap the governor uses and continues to hamper the city and other cities around the entire state, as well as other municipalities. And in order for the council to continue adopting budgets of minimal increases to the city staff, have to be very diligent and conscious of the spending. I believe the staff do a great job with the resources they have allocated, which allows the city to focus on the annual 2% tax increase to keep the roads and bridges maintained. With the governor's never-ending tax cap, I believe the city has done a great job in this, in maintaining and adding services, and the citizens of the city have grown accustomed to as well as depend on. The city also has a strategic plan to increase the tax base through the development of homes and privately owned parcels throughout the city. For example, the Northside Lodge Arbor Housing Project will put over 20 new parcels on the tax roll, as well as the old Corning Hospital site will increase the tax base right here in the first ward, backyard. Sorry. The initiative will continue to grow the tax base and increase the tax revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also feel the same way. I believe that our infrastructure is in need of a lot of work, and it needs repairing. Mostly I think our city water lines and our sewer lines need some upgrading. In the past few years, we've had money set aside in addition to our regular budget to improve our roads. And to be perfectly honest, my street was done this summer and it's pretty awesome. So anyone else that's lived in the city and has had their road either totally resurfaced or whatever, it's really a great thing. And I'm wondering if possibly the city council could do the same thing in regards to our water and sewer lines, and maybe take some money and attempt to set that aside to fix and upgrade our water and sewer lines so that we don't run into issues that can become far more costly if we let them go far too long.
Well, sounds like you're gonna hear the same thing over and over. But I also agree it's infrastructure. Again, I agree with the water and the sewer lines there. Firsthand, being on Market Street, you just never know where you're gonna be walking into with the sewer lines. I mean, I've known multiple businesses that the basements have been flooded because of backups. It's problem after problem after problem, and you know, we're doing as much as we can to keep a Band-Aid on it, but we really need to somehow get some money to start chipping away at some of these problems. As everyone knows, the taxes keep going up, and it just seems like the right things aren't getting fixed, and the infrastructure is definitely something that needs to be fixed.
Yes, I also think that the most critical issue facing our city is the need to upgrade its infrastructure. And not just what we see, of course, but what we can't see. The roads and bridges, the water and sewer pipes, the parks, the pools, the public buildings, and the electrical grid. And we need to see all of these systems as interconnected with one another. I would advocate for a new master plan that would outline a broad vision of what we want and need Corning's infrastructure to be in 20 years. The last master plan came out in 2002, and that dealt mostly with issues such as housing and economic development, and I understand that it is still a working document. But 15 years later, there are some new realities that need to be considered. For example, 15 years ago, we weren't talking about one storm that can dump 15 inches of rain in a few days. We now need to start thinking about things that we need to prepare for, such as extreme weather. And if I'm elected, I would do my part to work with all the expertise we have at the city level to create a long-range infrastructure master plan.
Well, I guess I'll speak as the chairman of the city's infrastructure plan committee. A lot of great comments. As Kate says, she really nailed it. We need an infrastructure master plan. We have to have a plan. I think where I'm different in my approach is that since I've come on board, when we start to look at our infrastructure projects, one of the things that I require is that when we contract with these architectural and especially the engineering firms for the services, I insist that we include in our scope of services that these firms identify any funding. You know, we all have these great ideas, and they are in fact great ideas, but somebody's got to pay for it. And how are we going to do it? So I feel the specific approach is to incentivize these firms that we deal with. The more money that they can bring in through state and federal funding, the more aggressive we can be on our projects infrastructure-wise. People have also, as you've heard, talked about the housing stock and stimulating economic development. And I was glad to hear Shawn talk about unfunded mandates. As you know, at the county level, unfunded mandates take up about 93% of all the tax income, the property tax income. That's pretty frightening. In addition to unfunded mandate relief, I'd like to talk about a couple other things, specifics. Increase in unrestricted state aid, or AIM. That reimbursement to the city has stayed flat since 2008, and that's truly the only pot of money that we can use as we wish on high priority projects. The other item I would like to talk about is the arterial reimbursement rate. The city takes care of Denison Parkway, and we get reimbursed, we get reimbursed by the state. That rate hasn't been adjusted since 1987. It's cost Corning taxpayers over $1 million.
All right, I'll try to be a little shorter. What Corning needs, everybody agrees, is to increase the city's future revenues without increasing property taxes. Simple, right? But that need has gotten worse, I'd point out, during the last 4 years while Mr. Karam's been on the city council. And Mr. Karam's party, the Republican Party, is going to cut federal funding. What does that mean? No federal funding for lots of things we get federal funding for, and the state will have less federal funding. What happens? The state's going to cut their budgets. We're going to get less money from the states. The money will go down, not up, under the Republicans. And the city manager has done a very good job in getting grant money. Marvelous job. And I hope he can find some way to get some grant money to fix the sidewalks so Frank and I don't fall down. But grant money alone is not the solution. The mayor, the city council, the city manager, and all of the local development organizations all need to work together to strengthen their efforts to increase the tax base and increase sales tax revenues. You do that by Corning selling itself strongly as a location for new enterprises. You have to sell Corning strongly as a destination for tourists, artists, and small business conferences. Thank you.
Thank you. There is not just one issue, but there are many that are important. I am supportive of the street paving program, the housing strategy, and promoting economic development. These things take time, tremendous teamwork, and a positive attitude to be successful. If elected, I look forward to serving on some of these strategic planning committees, and I will fully support these efforts. Over the years, I have built a good working relationship with the City Council, City Manager, local businesses, and individual citizens. I believe my role will be to help bring these people together to keep the momentum going.
Okay, we get the extra time?
Yes. No.
I'm on the infrastructure committee too, so we can all agree that the infrastructure needs work. Also, what needs to be needs work is the sewer plant, and we've looked at the pools. We've looked at some of the things that we provide as part of the ambiance of the whole city, to the whole city. And we're looking at funding, and as far as the pools are concerned, we're looking at sharing the pool with the school district, because they're spending a lot of money on some of their facilities, and we feel that they should be open to the public also. One of the biggest costs that we have to curtail is the cost of health insurance. The cost of health insurance has gone right out of sight. A family plan now costs $30,000, and I can remember when it was like $4,000. It has just gone straight upward. We have, and we have to pay for that. It's funding that is needed. Now, what I've talked to the city manager about is to increase the pool. In other words, increase the size of the pool. Do sharing with the school district or the county or some of the other groups, or maybe some of the other cities, to lower the cost of the premiums.
All right, there's a period right there.
Among my key values is being healthy and being safe. Being healthy means that we have a clean environment. That means clean water. Clean water is vital in any community, including ours, as is disposing of our waste. I went to Flint a while ago to help deliver water to folks, and we don't want another Flint here in Corning. We've got water main lines that are 100 years old that we're going to have to do something about, and we don't have, we could do better with long-term planning on infrastructure. Another critical value is being safe. That means roads that are safe, safe for not just people that are driving vehicles, safe for people that are riding their bicycles, safe for people that are walking down the sidewalk. We rely on good infrastructure. We must also maintain a well-staffed and equipped fire department and police department.
Well, I'll add to the infrastructure thing, but I will also tell you that we do make progress with the repair of the infrastructure. It's taking a while, but some of it gets done. We just had a project on Pulteney Street last night that it replaced a water line. But always the infrastructure thing is going to be important to the city, because unfortunately for many, many years it was just plain neglected, and we're trying to play catch up with that. If I'm elected, I want to continue with that infrastructure strategy, the housing strategy, and the economic development strategy that's now being developed. This is the type of long-range planning that is helping us to make the great improvements that we're seeing. We're paving streets, and it really made a difference in the 7th Ward this year. The housing strategy is addressing blighted homes. The city has worked with Steuben County to clean up a rundown house on Kingsbury Avenue, as a matter of fact, which is now underway. And an economic development strategy that is now being developed will help us expand our tax base to control property taxes and create new jobs. I'm a big supporter of the master plan, and I agree that we need to look at it a little more fully. And I fully support the individual long-range planning.
All right, there's 3 issues I'd like to touch on. One of them obviously being infrastructure, but with the word infrastructure, we obviously are talking about a lot of different things within that. So taxes being one of them, I think we need to keep our taxes low without impacting any of the city services that we already provide. And we need to continue the infrastructure development on within the 7th Ward. I mean, we've done great leaps with the city repair, or the road repairs, and I think there's a lot more to go. I mean, this is just a chip. Second, I'll move off the infrastructure. Second, I think we need to focus on the housing. We need to work together with the housing committee and the developers to meet the needs and improve our neighborhoods. And thirdly, I'm going to touch on something nobody else has touched on, and it's a big focus, is the crime within the city, the crime rate increasing. After speaking to many of the neighbors within the community, it's obvious that the neighbors have the same concern that I have. I think there's lots of things that we can do to try to help this situation. I would like to see maybe some of the landlords having a drug-free clause written into their rental agreement, and also maybe some community awareness and involvement, maybe an active intelligent committee within the city. There's many ways that we can use to, in fact, change this, and the key is just being more involved.
I think our candidates are behaving pretty well up here tonight, wouldn't you agree? Yes? Second question is, do you think...
You're not doing bad either, Russ.
Careful, careful. The second question is, do you think that Corning should have a renewable energy plan? We're going to change things just a little bit. If you went first last time to speak to an issue, then you'll go second this time. So it'll be a little more gymnastics for the passing of the microphone, but we'll get a chance to hear from different people first. So, Diane, I'd like to go first to that question. Do you think that Corning should have a renewable energy plan? Why or why not?
Well, I, for one, care about saving our planet. I'm kind of like the queen of recycling. I put out a bag of garbage about every 3 months or so because everything else gets recycled as far as my household goes. We need to do small things as far as saving our planet and saving money within the city. They have to be effective as well as cost effective. And they have to make sense in order to bring them about. Solar energy costs a lot of money for an initial installation. Just for the City Hall building, it could be anywhere between $300,000 and $1 million to install, depending on the type of solar system that you put there. And the payback on that is 20 years. I really don't think too many people want to wait for a payback for an investment of that size. A couple years back, we had Johnson Controls come in and do a study within all of the city buildings, and just based on the observations and the suggestions that they had, we actually saved enough money with their suggestions to pay for that. So that in and of itself was a great thing.
Over to Shawn.
I would certainly be open to exploring a renewable energy program here in the city. Certainly if there's a way for the city to save some money with an energy program, I'm all for it. But first, we need to get the studies done and do our due diligence, make sure an energy program will save the taxpayers money. Because obviously she already stated, 20 years on return for solar, maybe we choose something else. It's hard to say we have to do all the studies. I believe that there are opportunities to save taxpayer money. We should do everything within our ability to follow through and make that happen. When the study comes back and we see actual budget and saving numbers, that'll be all for beginning the renewable energy program. Thank you.
All right.
I got it. Absolutely, we should have a renewable energy plan. First of all, it's always better to have a plan, to plan ahead than it is to play catch-up. The fastest growing electricity sources in the world today are wind and solar, and that trend is not going to stop. If we ask ourselves, what do we want our city to look like in 20 or 25 years, renewable energy will play a huge role. And again, we need a master plan. Renewable energy is produced locally and used locally. The economic benefit would stay right here in our city. Producing our own energy would also make us more secure because we would not rely on outside sources. We can start encouraging renewable energy investment right now, today, by doing things like streamlining code approval for solar panels on homes and commercial buildings. There is a huge amount of innovation happening right now with renewables. For example, there are companies that lease space for solar arrays, and why not look at leasing space for solar arrays on municipal buildings? Renewable energy makes sense for Corning in the short term and in the long term.
I certainly agree that renewable resources is the future. And like most of us have already said, as long as the dollars make sense, we really need to look into things. And if they do make sense, then we need to start doing the things. It could be something so small or big projects that could work to that, or any improvements that we're making, somehow look into how we can apply some of the future technologies in what we're already doing. Because we need to look to the future.
As our Democratic mayoral candidate said in the last forum, we do have an energy conservation plan. And well, we don't have a renewable energy plan as such. Some aspects of that are already being considered in the conservation plan. But the conservation plan should be expanded to include renewable energy. But of course, I agree with these other people, we have to look at the cost of implementing each item of renewable energy before we actually implement it. But the cost of renewable energy keeps going down all the time. So, in fact, I think maybe that a statement about the cost that was made about the cost of solar energy, I think it may be much less than was stated just a little bit ago. In any event, you have to keep looking at it. But renewable energy is not, as claimed by the Republicans in Washington, unreliable and parasitic. I understand that the senior center needs a new roof. And I think the city council should look right now to see whether it's cost effective to put solar panels on there when you put the new roof on, or to lease the roof space to a solar power company. If you drive out to Indian Hills, you'll see that there's a big field full of solar cells, and some farmer leases his land, and he's making money. So, at least we can get a new roof on the senior center without paying for it, if that happened. Thank you.
I should have sat next to Kate in high school. I would have done much better. She really nailed it when she talked about the city needs, an energy master plan as well. I certainly agree with that. The city's doing some things already, conducting energy audits, converting lighting, including street lights to LEDs, operating a variety of recycling programs. And the city has amazing green spaces in parks. But that's not nearly enough. I think there is so much more we can do to become a greener community. And what I would like to see is the formation on City Council of a committee to address that issue and come up with a master plan for energy, and also explore taking all of the above approach and look at all possibilities that we could implement, and also along with that, how to pay for
Come down here to Frank, and then back to Rose. Hop up.
Okay, there you go.
Here we go.
I was gonna say, the city already has a plan. They've been working with we work with Johnson Controls to change all the lighting and put film on the windows to keep the heat in and to keep the cold out, so from coming in, I should say, the cold from coming back in. We're also working with the street lights to make them more efficient. And there are a number of things that the city manager has been doing with the number of companies that he's talked to. Also, from what I understand, the county is also doing a study, and it would make sense for the city to talk to the county and get some ideas from them and as to what we can do. So we should all be working together, because cost sharing makes all projects less expensive.
We're going to get back to Rose.
This is not Rose.
I know, we'll go back to Rose. I'm confused, but not that much.
Okay, we're past due having a renewable energy plant. I'm the proud owner of solar panels myself, and I'm really happy with them. It does all my electric. One way to get engaged is through, under NYSERDA, is called the Clean Energy Communities Program. It's called Climate Smart Communities. And you have to complete a number of action items to get certified, and we're well on our way to certification. I've heard lighting, those are some of the things that you would be required for certification. And once you get your certification, there is funding available through New York State for some subsidies for further actions in the way of renewable energy. I think it's better to light one candle than it is to curse the darkness. The first place to start is take the Climate Smart Communities Pledge. The town of Bath has done that already. They've taken the pledge. Cities like Rochester are climate smart communities. They've gone through the certification. This is available to all municipalities in New York State. It's something that might be worth looking into.
Depending on the cost of the plan, I would be supportive. Working in City Hall for 33 years, I know our employees try to find ways every day to be more efficient, and this includes energy efficiency. The Public Works Department has installed energy-efficient streetlights. Johnson Controls did an energy audit and replaced our heating and air conditioning systems with energy-efficient units. Parks and Recreation Director Chuck King got an energy efficiency grant for the new lighting for the ice rink. The computers and printers in City Hall are all Energy Star rated. And the city manager bids our electric and gas cooperatively with the school district, which has saved the city thousands of dollars in energy costs. I am very supportive in continuing these type of efforts as long as they are cost effective and do not take staff away from many of our other pressing issues.
Like a few of us other had said, I think this country as a whole needs to look towards renewable energy. I would be in favor of a renewable energy plan, however, it would have to be cost effective and financed with maybe grants from state or federal government funding. But that's to go without saying. We need to repair and exist broken and or aging systems before promoting systems for new infrastructural development. We could work also with our developers and engineers and we could also work with our developers and engineers and green building techniques. With an innovative company like Corning Incorporated being part of our community, like Chris Karam, we could develop a community forum or reach out for their assistance. And I think all these things could help us lead us in the right direction towards renewable energy plan.
Our next question is, this is not a time for any more. I'm sorry. We call on the carpet tonight.
You tell me when I'm gonna be here to behave. Well, actually, you probably could have skipped me anyway. The thing is that there's no question but what we have to explore the prospect of renewable energy. But it has to be explored, it has to be planned, it has to be cost effective. We have done a lot to conserve energy with regards to the city buildings and their street lighting. One of the little things that we've done that uses energy that you might not expect is we are currently using some of the gases emitted from our sewage treatment plant to actually heat that plant. So that's energy saving.
My apologies, Jim. I'll never let that one down. Our next question is not an opportunity for any of our candidates to be shy. The question is, what do you regard as your greatest contribution to our community? Let's go right straight down the line. Microphone.
My greatest contribution to the community would have to be serving the citizens of the city of Corning for 18 years. And highly regarded, I was a police officer here for 18 years. Everybody probably met me at one point or another, hopefully not in a traffic stop. But in a nice way. So I think my time as a city police officer has helped me come to this point. I feel like I have enough. I had to retire a little bit early, I think, because my daughter is autistic, and I needed a different job that was a little more conducive for her care. So I retired and found that job at the Camp Alsona School District. So I feel like I have a little bit more to give this community. And before that, I was a school resource officer at East High. So I worked in many different aspects in and around the city. I have served on the police departments as the police department's motor pool officer in charge of all police vehicles and service for at least 2 years before I retired. Served on the negotiating team between the police union and the city manager, and part of that I helped save the city some costs on medical insurance by changing the health plan, and which helped save the city some money on the health care. We diverted some of the cost of the employees.
Thank you very much.
I care about the city and the First Ward in particular because that's where I live. Personally, I shop local, I eat local, I play local, and the benefit from that is the sales tax revenue comes right here and stays right here and helps to keep our property taxes low. I do volunteer for the Red Cross, and trust me, if you've ever been to a Red Cross event, it certainly gives you a warm feeling to be a part of that. I'm a retiree, so I have a lot of time to devote to the people in my ward, and if I'm elected, I would like to be on a couple of the different committees that are within the city council. I think I would have a new perspective to bring, hopefully, and I take time to go through my ward. I'm known as the great neighbor of Ward 1. Thank you.
All right. Greatest contribution. One of them is serving the community now for 4 years, serving them food, and part of that is I employ anywhere from 10 to 15 young people who now have jobs, are paying rent, are buying groceries, shopping local, and trying to mentor these young people and really giving them wings to step out in the community and do some good, as well as the numerous contributions to the high schools and donating food and things like that to some other organizations. That's definitely what I'm most proud of.
I would say that my greatest contribution to our community is the volunteer work that I've done for this building that we're in right now, the Southeast Steuben County Library. The staff here is constantly working to bring innovative and engaging programs to the patrons and to serve the greater needs of our community. I've been the treasurer and the president of the Friends of the Library, which, among other things, organizes the infamous library book sale. And the funding from that book sale, the Friends uses it to support library programs such as a summer reading program, which is a great way to keep our kids engaged in learning over the summer. I've also been a circulation volunteer for the library for over 10 years. I just found out today it's 1,250 volunteer hours. And I'm now serving as a trustee of the library. And I was on the board when we established a sustainable funding source for the library, and that will ensure that it remains open for many, many years to come. I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Okay, greatest contribution to the community. That's an easy one. My wife, Kim, has taught 5th grade at Carter School for 17 years, positively impacting hundreds of children in the Corning community. As for me, my greatest community contribution was also a contribution to our country. In 1991, I was mobilized with the Army Reserve Unit from here in Corning in support of Operation Desert Storm. I had the honor of serving with many great soldiers, men and women from the Corning community. I've also had some fun along the way regarding community service. I've coached youth sports continuously for 30 years. Of recent note, I had the pleasure of coaching the Faratella's grandson on a kindergarten-aged basketball team at the YMCA, so we spent some Saturday mornings together. So, that was it for the community service.
Well, we sort of copycats here. My greatest contribution to Corning was some 13 years ago when I brought my wife Delight here. She is vice president of the Corning Calionians. She taught English at Corning Community College. She sang the choir at Christ Church. She plays keyboard with the Hepcats big band. We treasure the historic buildings of Corning, and we're among the first residents of Academy Place. We opened our apartment to the Southside Neighborhood Association. We opened our previous home to the Historic House Tour. We both served terms on the board of the Historical Society. We helped with the relocation of the Cooley Blacksmith Shop and the acquisition of the Historical Society's administrative building.
Serving as city clerk for 33 years has been my greatest accomplishment. I was able to archive decades of old records, codify all of our local laws and ordinances, and improve our record keeping. I was also able to preserve many old historical documents that should and must be kept forever. With the help of my co-worker, Lori Kelchner, I was able to assist thousands of citizens with their needs, either in my office or directing them to the right department or agency so that they could get their help. I made sure we were a positive face of the city. Oftentimes, the first contact our citizens have with local government is the city clerk's office. I wanted to make sure they had the best experience possible. I also have supported the city management form of government for over 20 years. I worked under Suzanne Kennedy and Mark Reichman. Professional government has served us from financial disaster and made us all city services that we possibly could keep. If elected, I will continue to strongly support professional government here in the city of Corning. I've been very active in my local parish as a lector and a member of the choir. I was past president of the auxiliary of Corning Hospital, and I intend to give as much as I can of my time and my resources and my proficiency and professionalism as a city councilman. Thank you.
Well, I'll break it down into two aspects. One is the amount of volunteer work I've done in the community. but as having been on the council for 26 years, the first thing I did was secure funding for the installation of a noise wall along the Corning bypass. I drove back and forth to Hornell, to the DOT, and I drove them crazy over there until they finally agreed to put up a noise wall, which they completely forgot and took out of their funding. And they did put it up. Worked with the city council on the aquifer committee we introduced legislation to protect the new drinking water. I worked with the city auditors, the mayor, and the city treasurer to improve the city's financial reporting because we had a disastrous report from the state. And I worked with the mayor and the rest of the government employees. I sponsored legislation to build a water stripping tower to clean the city's water. Sponsored legislation for the city's master plan. In fact, 50% of the people who showed up were people from the Hope Plot area. And I worked with the city manager, the county and others to upgrade the north side sewer system and the street program, which was a big project, and Corning Incorporated helped us out tremendously.
I'm looking over his shoulder, he's got a longer list there.
I've been here 26
All right.
Give me a break.
All right.
Oh, do I get to say about volunteers?
Not right now, not right now.
My greatest contribution would be my involvement through the labor movement. I've been a member of the Steuben and Livingston Labor Council, and we've done a lot of great things. For instance, we volunteer our time at the food bank. I'm also support the arts. I give my time to the choir for the orchestra of the Southern Finger Lakes. I sing in the choir at my church, Christ Church. I'm also on the vestry of Christ Church.
Yeah. I love the exercise. Actually, as far as city involvement is concerned, I've done 25 years in the police department before I retired. I've gotten involved with city council and been on city council over 20 years. The last 18 summers, I have been on the staff at Camp Fort in the Boy Scout camp, spent my summers up there with the young people. Numerous hours of volunteering with the Gaffer District and its special events, Parade of Lights, Sparkle of Christmas, this kind of thing. I've always been active and involved in the community activities. I helped my wife Joyce with some Kiwanis events, and certainly with the church and other community events. And what's the most important thing? What is the biggest thing I've done? I don't think any of them are more special than another. One of the things I will say that I felt is one of the greatest things that's happened in this community since I've been involved is when we established the city manager form of government and changed the charter. That was one of the biggest things that I had the pleasure of being a part of, and I think it made a difference with the city, so we have professional management.
I haven't had as much time here in the past years to be as involved as I would like to be in community organizations, especially with having a young family, college, sports, work, etc. But I did work for a local EMS service for a great many years, and I've also been a volunteer firefighter for a number of years. But I'd have to say my greatest contribution to this city would be me standing up here today. Wanting to become a part of Corning City Council and make a difference. I do care about the future of this city. I do have a huge learning curve to overcome, but I'm willing to take that task. So, thank you.
Next question is the last of our prepared questions, so if the staff back there has some questions for me, I'll take those and we'll take a look at them. Our last question is, I think, is probably the most difficult one of the evening. It brings the national news and international news into our community. And the question is this: in light of recent storms and shootings, how can Corning develop or improve an emergency response plan? And we'll do this with the second person going first again. Right here. Jump right in.
Actually, the city already does have a plan, and it's actually linked to a county plan. And if I'm not mistaken, it's up to the city manager to execute that plan if and when it's needed. It needs to be communicated better that plan is even actually out there, because a lot of people don't know that it is. We also have a reverse 911 from the county, and we also have phone alerts to specific areas when they're necessary. So I think that pretty much covers emergencies that would be potentially here in our city.
Thank you, Diane.
So first I'll touch on, I work part-time at Pampo Police Department, and working the other night, watching trees drop off into the roadway, and maybe we should keep up on tree trimming and identify maybe a little bit better or more extensively to lessen the damage to people's vehicles and or utility outages. DPW already does a great job with their snow removal by prioritizing the streets. I know not everybody is happy, including myself. I live on Denison Parkway, so my entrance and egress is an alley, which is last on the list. But they do a great job overall in that regards. My time with the police department was, a lot of that was focused on school shootings, workplace violence. In light of the expanded violence going on in the world, perhaps, training. That's really the key to a lot of this. And taking a look at seeing what some of the other local areas are doing outside of what we are already doing and already have planned. Thank you.
Okay.
So when I was researching this question, I did talk to the city manager because there wasn't much on the city website. I want to just make a distinction between what I call man-made disasters and natural disasters. The city manager assures me that the city does have plans for man-made disasters. I understand him when he says that it doesn't do anybody any good, doesn't do us any good to give the handbook to the bad guys, as he put it. I do also know that Steuben County Office for Emergency Services coordinates emergency responses for the entire county, and the city coordinates with them. I've seen a lot of work from this, the Office for Emergency Services. They have a lot to offer, and they do communicate quite well on social media, I think, so that's a good thing. Two programs I'd really like to mention, and the first one is called the Special Needs Registry. And unfortunately, as we see so many times, some people want to evacuate, but they actually can't. They're unable to physically. And the Special Needs Registry is a way for a person to be able to voluntarily identify themselves as someone who needs extra help in order to evacuate. So if you know of somebody or you have that issue, then I would really suggest that you contact the county and get on that registry. The other communication tool is Code Red. It used to be called 911, but it is now called Code Red. It is an emergency notification system that will alert a person to an event that requires action from the public. So again, you can go on the county website and look that up. Thank you. Oh.
Well, I'm certainly not an expert in either storms or shootings or violence or anything like that. But what I do is I believe in our police, our fire, and our other first responders. All we can do as a city council is make sure that we get all the resources we can to our police and fire and first responders for the proper training and resources they need to handle any situation.
All right, the city does have an emergency management plan, which is pretty good, and it's coordinated with the Steuben County Emergency Plan. My problem is that Corning has had very major floods in the past, and I know there's all kinds of control devices out there and everything, but the current management plan does include flood emergencies, but we've seen this year 2 huge, maybe 3 huge tropical storms, and flooding that far exceeded what the emergency plans anticipated. With global warming, our next flood may be an historic flood. The city council needs to make sure that our emergency management plan is adequately updated to include that possibility that flooding may be far greater than we have anticipated in the past. Now, our Republicans in Washington don't believe in global warming, so I guess there's no problem as far as they are concerned. They've decimated the EPA, they've silenced the global warming scientists, and we're supposed to stick our head in the sand. I don't think we should do that. Thank you.
I'll talk in two parts. First thing, storms. I was 7 years old during Agnes and the flood of 1972. How many people here in the room remember that event?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the storms happened, no question. As it's been mentioned, the city and the county have an excellent, well-coordinated emergency management plan for any such event. The National Guard also does a nice job with their citizen preparedness program. In December of 2014, if you remember, they put on actually multiple training sessions at the high school. Those events were well attended. As far as shootings, you know, first thing, you know, Mr. Nelson, Jim Nelson, 25 years, and Shawn Copp, 18 years. It's gentlemen and women like this that protect our community. I'd like to recognize the Corning Police Department, the Steuben County Sheriff's Department, and the New York State Police. I'm confident in their proven ability to handle any type of crisis, whether it's a shooting or something different. Also, I'm very proud to have the official endorsement of the Crystal City PBA based on my record of support of law enforcement over the past 4 years.
The city of Corning could do more. If you check their website, you won't find much. At least I didn't find much on emergency plan. We fall under the auspices, for the most part, of Steuben County and their plan. They do have a plan. We could communicate that a little better with some links on the website, perhaps. Natural disasters are tough, and it's unfortunate that we wait until we have to plan for a disaster instead of being proactive and taking actions to have prevented it from happening in the first place. Global warming, for instance, is something that we have levers we can pull to prevent it. And the best way to avoid natural disasters is keep them from happening in the first place.
This way, this way. Frank, do you want to stay seated? You want to sit? Sure. Okay. I'm just... Oh, no, I'll get up. Okay, all right.
The city does have a booklet on, or a pamphlet on handling emergencies. It talks about what you need to prepare for, what you should have in your home, what you should have in your automobile, and it can be found at the library or it can be found at City Hall. I wasn't here in '72, so I can't speak on the flood, but I do know that the city and the county have a storm program, and what they should do is, and what they do is they dovetail together. As for the shootings, now I'm originally from Boston, so when you talk about shootings, there are a lot of shootings up in that area. But what we do have in the city is we have a drug court, and that was started by the DA, and he did a wonderful job. And the drug court basically is where we have people who come in who are on drugs, who are on opiates. They come in and they go through a program for approximately 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, they graduate. And there's a ceremony which is held upstairs in the council chambers, and people are, who graduate from there basically don't go back and use drugs anymore. And
I'm not gonna be your friend by the end of the
I
evening.
can't. Well, there you go, Will.
Our city manager is also the director of public safety, and he has made sure that there are plans in place. We also have high-quality police and fire departments who train on these issues regularly. In addition, there are numerous other fire departments and police agencies that our employees work with every day. There are systems in place to call for mutual aid, and I know we have outstanding relationships with our neighboring municipalities. Although we cannot foresee every possible disaster. If we have a major event, I am confident that the police and fire departments are well equipped to handle it.
Well, as far as the website being not up to par, I'm not actually aware of an actual plan in place. But I do know, with my background, it's kind of hard to plan for the unknown. I do believe and would like to thank our local police, fire, and EMS services for all that they do, and I know that they do stay current on their training. I know they have some active shooter training, and I agree that we shouldn't tip our hat when it comes to an actual plan of attack, when it comes to that type of situation. I would actually leave it up to the city manager and his staff, including fire, police, and EMS, to review and improve that area or a plan. And I would also reach out to the community to educate them in ways that they can help with this type of emergency situation. We have a lot of good nurses and doctors that live in our community, and they have also taken the oath to help people in time of need. And I think that would be a great asset.
Anybody else? Oh, just kidding.
You know, I think you're preaching Sunday at church.
Not every tonight, though.
Interruptions.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Go ahead and answer the question. A lot of it's already been covered here, that we do have a plan. As it's been stated, I was in the local police department here for 25 years. I believe that in our system, I know that there is updated training with our police officers and our fire departments. We certainly can call upon the sheriff's department, the state police, other law enforcement agencies in the area. We need that for that kind of emergency. And I was here for the flood in '72, and I want to tell you that between the National Guard and other agencies that came in here and bailed us out, I think we can handle whatever nature throws to us.
This is the first of our questions that was submitted by the audience, and we'll come right down the path this way. I want to compliment everybody for, everyone, really, seriously, everyone for listening to our timekeeper and moving things along. The more quickly we can stay with this schedule, the more questions we'll be able to answer. Now, this has been a very civil and cooperative group up here this evening, so this first question here is not a trick question. How will you promote civility and cooperation at city council meetings?
Well, I think it's pretty civil already. In the past, unfortunately, the city council has named the common council. I think we've got past that. If there's an issue, they'll call the police department out. Let's face it. And they'll quickly respond to any need that the city council would have. And I think the residents of the city of Corning are pretty respectful of the process already. So I don't think we're really at a point where there's anything that really needs to be done that we aren't already doing.
I guess I kind of agree with Shawn. I've been attending some of the city council meetings recently, and I really haven't noticed any discord among people. When questions want to be asked, it seems as though all the councilmen raise their hand and take their turn. and I think everyone is listening, and I think people are open to other ideas. And I think that's what the city council really needs, and I think that that's been brought to the forefront very recently.
At the end of the day, our goal all is the same, is to make our community better, not only now, but for generations to come. We all need to realize we need to listen to each other, listen to everyone's 2 cents, and seem to make the best decision, the best educated decision on any issue.
I believe that it's important to look people in the eye, to speak to them one-on-one when you can, and to be respectful of their opinions and their ideas. We don't know where the next great idea is going to come from. We have to talk to each other. Our problems are too great to get bogged down in petty personal disagreements, and I believe in taking the high road and working together to get jobs done and get solutions found.
It's really encouraging to hear comments from Boomer and Kate about working together. And like Boomer said, you know, we're all committed to working together at the community level, and the city level, and get away from this hatred and this extremism on both sides. That's at the national level. And like I said, it's just so enjoyable and encouraging to see this cooperative attitude tonight. And I think also, as far as being civil on city council, I think you have to recognize Mayor Negri. That's been one of his priorities. He's done a wonderful job with that. And I also think, as we vet issues, that a healthy tension is okay, to make sure that we're fully and completely, you know, taking a hard look at issues and making sure we're getting on the right side of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the city council is pretty civil. I don't know about the word discord, but discourse certainly should be welcomed. You know, everybody should have a chance to express their ideas, and some of us, Frank and me, and I don't know, maybe Chris, if we get excited about something, we're going to express our ideas vigorously. But as long as we politely listen to other people's views and we work together to a solution for the city of Corning, the city council will be doing its job.
The city council has rules and proceedings that they are supposed to follow. I think respect is needed amongst the councilmen. I think councilmen need to come to these meetings prepared. Many times questions are asked and the answers are right in front of them if they took the time to prepare for the meeting and to review the material that was provided. There are times when there has been grandstanding, and I think that's a negative thing. I think people need to find a positive in every negative, and we're not there just to hear one individual. You need to work together as a council, and believe me, there have been many times at those council meetings where I wished I had a whistle around my neck and a striped shirt on, because I've had to put my pen down on numerous occasions because it was going back and forth and back and forth. Now, Chris is right, Mayor Negri has done a very good job of trying to keep that under control. However, that's a difficult task to do. So I think the grandstanding needs to stop, and I think there needs to be respect amongst all of the councilors together. Everyone has good ideas to express. You have to be able to listen, but you have to come prepared so that the same questions are not asked over and over and over again, and the answers are usually right in front of you. Thank you.
I like to ask questions. So I'm probably the one she's aiming this at. But I'll tell you right now, when I come to a meeting, I've read every bit of the material. I've talked to the city manager, and usually I talk to the mayor. But when I go to the meeting and I bring up a point, I would like to have all of the aldermen sit there and listen and also say, hey, you know, that's a good point. Let's explore that a little further. We're not there to rubber stamp everything. We're not there to just be lumps on the chair. What we're there to do is to express our opinions on various items that come before us. And if people don't like that, I'm sorry. But I know that I get along very well with the city manager. I have his cell phone number, and he calls me, and I call him. I talk to the city, the mayor, and I'm sure a number of people in here that are on the council right now do the same thing. And that's the way the government should run. We shouldn't do things in a back door, in hiding and so forth, and have something on a piece of paper and expect that to be the final answer, because it's not. Okay.
She was getting ready.
Okay, I heard a common theme, well, pretty much down the table, it's listening. I've served on a lot of teams, and I've worked with a lot of people, because I've had to work with people. You have to be able to get along with them. And I can tell you, most of the time, it happens because somebody feels like they're not being heard. So that's the key, that's what you need to work on. And I can do my part and make sure that I listen to folks and what they're saying, and be respectful.
Overall, I believe that we all get along well on city council. We certainly know each other, we care about each other. We're all willing to listen to what the other one has to say. And I think we also have a mutual pact that we agree to disagree. We aren't always on the same side of this thing. We're a bipartisan organization. The ultimate goal is to reach a decision and a conclusion that's in the best interest of the people of the city of Corning. That's what we're here for.
Well, this is good going last, because there's really nothing I can say that anybody else hasn't said already. I agree with everybody on this panel. All I can say, for my own accord, is that I believe you do have to respect other people's views, and I do believe the tension within is all right, as long as it's maintained in a professional manner. Like I said, I'll make this short and sweet. There's really nothing I can say anybody else hasn't. I do believe city council, in the past and now, I've never read anything in the paper or seen anything on the news broadcast where the police had to attend. Besides that, I mean, it's easy to do. It really is. Thank you.
Hang on to that microphone, take a seat. As the moderator, I'm going to switch things around here. We're going to go from this side to this side. These on thinking on your feet questions are a little more difficult. So, next question. Some allege the city manager has too much power and the city council too little. How do you respond? So Mark, you want to take that?
Well, that kind of bit me. That was the last one there, the first one here. City manager, like I said, I'm new to this, so I'm not privy to a lot of the inside goings-ons of the city with the city manager. I know that it is an appointed position that can be taken away at any given time, I believe. There is I believe, a contract with him, but he was not elected by his constituents. I think it's an okay forum for what we've had for the most part since it's been enacted. And as long as it keeps going the same way, and like I said, city council, there's many voices here, so if that needed to change, it very well could.
I believe that the city manager form of government is the best thing that ever happened to this city. We need a professional manager in this city. I believe we have the council and the manager get along well. Council gives the city manager direction, and the city manager carries it out. I think it works. It's a good system.
The city manager, I understand, does a pretty good job, and I have to agree with frank here, that the council's not there just to rubber stamp things. And we're fortunate that we have a manager that is there, who's appointed by people elected here in Corning. There are other municipalities where managers have done really, they've done criminal things, and the people who were members of the community had no control. They couldn't fire him. I'm going to go back to Flint, Michigan, for instance. He was put there by the governor. He wasn't put there by the people in his city, and he screwed that place up. So it's something that it's something that council, city council should be watching out for. But I understand he does a great job.
Thank you. Well, I think I like Mark, and I don't have any problems with him. There are times, though, when I do question some of the things that he does, and I talk it over with him. He is the CEO of the city. There are times when I would think that it'd be much better if he was like Elmira, where he was the city manager, but also worked with the mayor more often. As CEO and as the person who micromanages everything, you know, not all solutions are found in one person. Although Mark is a very good, very smart guy, and I didn't vote for his evaluation, for his raise, because I didn't particularly like the fact that we don't evaluate a person. I think we should evaluate everybody. And but other than that, he and I talked about it, and he didn't have a problem, and I didn't have a problem. So anyway, we have a city manager, and that's it. There you go.
Years ago, the constituency of this city voted to change our form of government from a mayor-council form of government to a city manager form of government. It was the best decision that the city has made. You have one boss, not numerous bosses. The city manager is accountable to every citizen in this city, as well as the city council members. He is evaluated every day. And if he doesn't meet their expectations, he can be gone in 90 days. Okay? Mark does an excellent job. It's so much easier to have one person to report to on a daily basis. And this man spends numerous hours at City Hall working for the betterment of this city and works respectively with all the city council members. And I think they need to see that in the city manager form of government. Our previous city manager, she worked very hard as well. So it's the professionalism. When you work with a budget the size of the city of Corning, you have to have a professional person who knows how to handle that budget, how to propose that budget, and how to implement the policies and so forth that the council brings forward. So I too believe in the city manager form of government, and I think it was the best decision that the constituency of our community made years ago.
Well, I have a little bit different perspective on that. I think the city manager form of government works well for Corning. But we lived in Baltimore County, Maryland. You know how big Baltimore County, Maryland is? One little village, group of people is as big as Corning. We had an elected county executive. The school board was under the county executive. And that worked too. And the one thing that was better with that, one problem I have with the city manager is if you went to somebody in the county government and you asked them a question, you want something done, I think they worked faster because their boss was elected and they knew that you could vote him out of office. So, and I agree with Frank. You know, I worked with the federal government for many years, and probably many of you worked with other organizations, and we had an evaluation every year. The purpose of the evaluation was not to get rid of us. The purpose of the evaluation was to have it interchanged. So Frank could tell the city manager where he'd had problems, the city manager could tell Frank the things he needed. So I think we should have an evaluation every year.
Hold your applause, please.
As Jim Nelson said earlier when he answered the question about his greatest contribution to the community, he said that implementing the city manager form of government was just that, one of his greatest contributions. He just heard a testimonial from one of the most respected long-term employees, Clerk Rose Blackwell. So in this case, I think we need to respect that experience.
So it's clear from everything that I can see that our city manager is a person of great expertise. He's been in the job for 20 years. He certainly knows our city inside and out. I've been attending city council meetings now for the last 18 months. And as someone on the outside looking in, I have to say, except for the votes that had to do with the second ward, I have seen almost none that were not unanimous. And so if disagreements are happening, they are happening outside of the view of the average citizen, which is what I've been representing all these months. I think that the way it's supposed to work is that the vision is supposed to come from the city council and the manager is supposed to implement. I will have to take these gentlemen's word for it that that's what's happening.
I believe it's a good system. I have no reason not to believe it's a good system. And I don't mean to keep bringing it back to food, but I mean, it's what I do. So a kitchen full of chefs just doesn't work. You need a leader, and then the leader needs to trust the process and trust his sous chefs, his city council. So you just can't have too many leaders. That's how
I think our city manager has been doing a great job. I don't know anyone here on this panel personally that's a grant writer, that might know how to write a grant. Maybe they do, I'm not sure. I know I don't know how to write a grant. And my understanding is, according to the article that was in the paper a few nights ago, our city manager has gotten well over millions of dollars for our city to help us with projects within the city. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. So I honestly think that the city manager is doing an excellent job in bringing in funding to get things up and running and to better our community.
Over the years, through my law enforcement experience, I've worked with, obviously many different municipalities. I worked for the Village of Addison, Village of Green Post, Sheriff's Department, and the City of Corning. I've observed these processes in action. The manager here we have had for approximately 20 years has done a great job over the years overall. Obviously, we don't all agree with everything that has been done, but it's done for the betterment of the city. I believe this form of government has worked out well for the city, not only for the residents, but for the business people as well. And I know Mark is a great delegator of some of these things. He doesn't write all the grants, but he does delegate out, and members of my department have been involved in their aspect of getting some of these grants for the police department that assist the city. Thank you.
Now let me ask the library staff, do we have time for 10 more minutes? Or how, is that all right? Yes, I got the signal. We're going to, this time we're going to be really creative. We're going to start right here with Chris and go down this way, then jump all the way to the end. How about that? Last question. Can you assure us you will be an independent, nonpartisan council person?
I think I have been over the past 4 years. I'm willing to work with anybody that has the best interest of the city in mind. So I think that's pretty straightforward. And as far as nonpartisan, I'm a registered Republican, and I'd like to think I've been one of the biggest supporters of the Democratic mayoral candidate. So I think that's a pretty tangible example of being nonpartisan.
Thank you. That's right. Right?
All right. Wasn't I
Nice try.
just talking? What's the question again?
The question is,
Can I
can you
be
assure us you will be an independent, nonpartisan councilwoman?
Yes, I can assure you. I hope that my behavior in the last 18 months has shown that I really don't care about party politics. I'm interested in doing a job for the city. I feel like this has been a very long job interview that I really hope to come through on. I'm interested in ideas, and I think the rest of it is a big waste of time.
Could you use that in a sentence? Yes, there's no reason for parties or this and that in the city, in this level of city government. I don't know if you can tell, but I certainly don't look like a political insider or anything like that. I just want to do what's right for the city and what's right for the future.
I think one of the jobs of a city councilman is to listen. And it doesn't matter what party you're from, it doesn't matter what street you live on, it doesn't matter what kind of a house you live in. If we all took 5 seconds right now and closed our eyes, we wouldn't be able to tell what anybody looked like. So it doesn't matter what party you come from, you have to be open-minded and you have to be willing to listen. And you have to be compassionate, and you have to have empathy. And I'm sure that I could do that for Ward 1.
The people that personally know me know that I tend to question things, maybe a little bit more than I should. But I believe it's gotten me this far in life, and it's definitely a positive thing. I will only vote yes on things that are good, not only for the people of the First Ward, but for the city as a whole. I will not vote for things that don't make sense.
Thank you. Mark, coming at you.
Well, like I said in my introduction, I believe I've proven that I can be bipartisan I'm not attached myself to any one party, even though I am a registered Republican. I have recently changed that to an independent, but I have my own beliefs. But in this form of government, I do agree that everybody needs to work together to create a common goal. It's really hard to watch the news these days with the party groups within Congress and see what takes place and why we can't come to agreements on issues that affect the community and affect the way that we live. And it's really hard that to see that, and I wish we could get by that. But this form of government should be a lot easier, and I can promise that I'll do that.
Simple answer is yes. To give you an example, during the time I've been on city council, I was deputy mayor under a Republican mayor for 2 years. I was deputy mayor under a Democrat mayor, Frank Coco, for 2 years. If that's not bipartisan, I don't know what is. And most all of the committees I serve on consist of people from both parties. We don't truly have Republicans and Democrats on city council. We have members of city council who want to work for the best interests of the city.
I would have to say I'm a pretty independent thinker, and I tend to focus on results rather than parties or people. It works better that way.
One thing about the city of Corning, all politics is local. And it doesn't matter who you are or what committee you're on and who you're on with. It just means that you're looking out for the best interests of the people in the community. I know that when I first got on council, I talked to Frank Coco, he's a Democrat, and he and I talked quite a bit about various aspects of the council. I was dealing with a number of people who were Republicans, but it didn't matter. What we were looked at was the issue. Is that issue gonna be for the best interest of the people of the city of Corning? And if it was, then fine. If it wasn't, then maybe we ought to change it a little bit and make sure it is. So, basically, that's it. Politics is local in the city of Corning.
I am not a politician, and I do not care to become a politician. I am a people person. I would hope that people would support me because of who I am, not because I belong to any particular party. I happen to be a registered Republican, however, I will be on the independence line on this ballot. I want people to vote for Rose Blackwell for who she is and what she represents, and not because she is affiliated with any one particular party. And I think that's something that our federal government, our state government, all local governments should act the same way. They should be out for the betterment of all the people and not for any particular party.
I can assure you that I will be independent and bipartisan. I think we're using the word nonpartisan incorrectly. Elizabeth Whitehouse is a nonpartisan, but the word nonpartisan means somebody who has no connection to an established political party. And almost all of us up here have a connection, Republican, Democrat, to an established political party. And if it weren't for those established political parties, we wouldn't have to have a Corning Republican committee or a Corning Democratic committee. And you know, the people on those committees work really hard to elect people. And which party you belong to, maybe at the local level doesn't say too much about you, but as you move up, which party you belong to says something about you right away. So party does mean something to somebody, or we wouldn't have parties. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our evening event here. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this event. I'd like to thank all of you for coming and providing an audience. And I'm sorry.
They got closing statements.
Closing statements.
Yeah.
How can we forget the closing statements? Right over here. I thought we were under pressure. My last job as moderator, I'm sure.
I'll try to keep this short. Over my career, I've worked at a lot of police departments, and I have not only as a school resource officer, and I've already said a lot of these things, so I'll skip past them, but I've served on many committees and worked well on these committees as a team member, just like I hope to on city council. The citizens of the First Ward, as well as the citizens citywide, deserve a candidate who's going to be hardworking, listen to people, get back to them, and work as a bipartisan team member to make the First Ward in the city of Corning a better place to live, and I believe I am that candidate to make these things happen. Just a reminder to everybody, please go out and vote, make your voice heard through the voting process.
This has been a very interesting and informative evening, hearing answers that people gave to the same questions and their answers to those questions. I'd like to think that my answers were the best, but of course I'm sure everyone up here thinks the same things about their answers too. I hope that I have proven that to the people of the First Ward that I'm passionate about being their councilman, and that I will work hard and learn all I can about the process. Corning has been known as the Crystal City, and we all know that crystal sparkles when you shine light through it. I'd like to be the one that keeps our city shining.
First off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Secondly, in closing, I'm not one for talking much. I don't really talk much, but I pride myself in problem solving, and I take actions, and that's what I'll bring to the city council is actions.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I've knocked on every door that I can in my ward, regardless of their party, of the person behind the door, for 2 years in a row now. And it hasn't been a hardship. In fact, as I've said more than once, this is the best part of the whole election thing. I've talked to over 100 voters in the past weeks, and I've learned something from every one of them. On top of that, I've talked to our fire chief, our city manager, our new city clerk, a police lieutenant, our parks and rec director, current council members, and many other people to try and learn more about how things work in our city. And there is a lot more to learn, but I think that's the fun part. And for all of you who are feeling at all cynical about politics these days, I really recommend that you get out and meet one of your neighbors and have a talk about what is important to you both. And I think that you will find at the end of the day that we all want the same thing, a safe and prosperous place to live and work. And that is a goal worth working on together. Thank you.
I'm running for re-election to council because I truly, truly, truly enjoy serving the people of this community. I approach this service from two different perspectives. The first I like to call voice of the people. I'm continuously talking to people of the 3rd Ward to make sure I'm hearing them loud and clear on all the issues facing the city. The second perspective, how I approach service, I learned a lot from my good friend Frank Coco, and that's regarding constituent services. I'm accessible and responsive to residents 24/7, via cell phone, email, or meeting in person. In the past 4 years, again thanks to Mr. Coco's help, I've made 200 submittals to the city manager's office, including work requests, complaints, questions, and suggestions. If I am fortunate enough again to win re-election, I pledge my continued service to the people of the 3rd Ward.
Okay, first, I don't know if any of you have seen this flyer, but this is, I don't know that it came out of the Republican Party, I hope not. But this is really an attack on the whole city council, it's an attack on Bill Bolin, and it's really an attack on Negri because he talks in here about you've drained the pools. Well, any action that's been taken, the city council and Mr. Negri, whatever, they're the ones that are in charge now. And this is, I guess this is an example of the kind of politics that we don't want in Corning. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for its work on the forum. I want to thank those who came here to support me. My background, qualifications, I've sent to everybody. You can read if you want anything more, call me, email me, or Twitter me on my Twitter account. I have the experience and the ideas, and I would make an outstanding city councilman for the 3rd Ward. Thank you.
I too would like to thank the League of Women Voters for this evening, for this opportunity. Again, as I said earlier, I am not a politician. However, I support and I love good government. And I think we have good government here in the city of Corning. And I think the momentum needs to keep going. I think the procedures and everything that's been in place through the city manager and the members of the council are on a positive note. And I'm a positive person. I try to find a positive and a negative. And I think it's time for a change in the 5th Ward. And I think I'm the best person to elect to that position. Thank you.
I guess that means changing me. So, I don't think it's time for a change. I happen to be the most experienced person. I'm dedicated and responsive. If anybody calls my house, I will go down and answer their calls and find out what their problems are. I learned that from a number of councilmen who came before me, and they told me that you should always get out there and talk to the people who are in your ward, and I've done that. I've made sure I've done that. And as a former business consultant, I can tell you there's more common sense solutions to problems than there are if you get right down into the nitty-gritty, because you waste time, and the solutions most times are very simple. I don't believe in wasting taxpayer money. I never have. And the city manager have discussed a number of issues. We've discussed the audit plan, we've discussed the budget, we've gone over it. And like I said, no change is needed in the 5th Ward because you have an experienced person right now. Thank you.
I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters and everybody for coming out. I think that democracies work best when we have choices, and I'm a really good choice. And I can say that if I was a councilman, that I would put my best foot forward for the folks of the ward that I'm representing. Thanks.
I too want to thank the League of Women Voters and all of you for coming out and spending your evening. Hopefully you had dinner before you came. Mark and I didn't. But that'll be remedied shortly. I really desire to continue serving on City Council. I supported the street paving and senior citizens and veterans tax exemptions, housing strategy plan for blighted properties, construction of a new hotel on the north side, the development of the north side Blodgett School lot, the development of the hospital lot. I have a sound understanding of the city manager form of government. I have a voting record that's outstanding in City Council, and I'm really ready to do another 4 years.
I also want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having me. I am new to this, and I have a lot to learn, and there's a learning curve here, but I have the willingness to do just that. I might not always have the answer, but I will make the effort to get one for you. You can always call me. I'll always be available for your concerns. I'll just be a phone call away, and I'll also always try to communicate with you on matters that are happening within the community. I believe I'd be a good councilman for the 7th Ward in the city of Corning. I'd appreciate everybody's support on November 7th. Like Mr. Copp said, please get out and vote. That does make all the difference in the world. And I want to thank all of you tonight too, fellow runners, candidates. But have a good night. Thank you so much.
Now I think we're ready. Thank you very much, League of Women Voters. I think that Corning is very lucky to have such a great list of candidates for these positions. Thank you.